Okay, we are live. So we will give it a few minutes before we start. While we are getting up or while we are waiting for people to join, I'm gonna do some setup in the background. Okay, thank you for joining us. We are about to start. Today we are going to learn, actually for those who do not already know how to use the case underscore went in or from dplyr. We are going to learn how to use it, and those who already know how to use it, we are going to see what are the new updates, because this function has been updated lately. So let me see, we are now at 6:02 Eastern Time. Uh, I will go ahead and share my screen. Let me do a few things here. I need to change the brand. We are here, Nile Quantum, then let me add something small about what we are doing today. Okay, and then now I'll present. Okay, so now I'm sharing my screen. I'm in our studio. As you can see, I have zoomed out a little bit to make it clearer. And so they load libraries. Okay, so I'm in our studio. I'm using a visual mode, and in visual mode, you can call the code chunk by simply pressing the forward slash, and it will give you options. We are going to use R, so I'm going to choose R. And although we are going to use the case underscore when from dplyr, I'm going to load the tidyverse, which has about 9 packages. So you load in R, you load a function by calling library, and then we run this, and this is giving us the printout like info about the packages dplyr 2.1.4, etc. But we can suppress this message by pressing pound key for that's vertical, and then to warning we set it to false. Messages or message will also set that to false. So these here are things that you can do in visual, like Quarto has these abilities of just writing the option, putting the options inside the code chunk. Now you can play this button here to run the package, or I could just click anywhere next to it, before or after or in the middle, and comment return, and that, excuse me, that will run it. Or I could do ship return. I'm on Mac, but command is always control. No, actually, I just did control return. So we have now loaded these packages, like meta packages. So we are going to use the South Sudan census 2008 census data that we have always been using. Our objective is just to showcase how to use case underscore went, and particularly the new updates. And this is the data that we are going to use here. So I will add another chunk. Let me title it importing data set, again forward slash, and we are going to call it, maybe call it census underscore 2008. Or if we want to be explicit enough, we could call it SS, although this is probably SSD for South Sudan. Option underscore on Mac is going to be alt underscore to enter the assignment operator. We are using a CSV file, so we can use read R, or I like using Broom package. It's a little bit faster than read R, which is read underscore CSV from read R. Let's see where we have this. It's put it in the post. This is actually the blog, that the website that I'm building using Quarto. It's in the tutorials, and this is the data. Oh, I have to come back again. Tab key, and let's scroll down. Post. Okay, so let's see a post. Post, I should just see SS. Okay, so it's not showing up here. Okay, I think it's because I accidentally pressed something else. Okay. So I accidentally pressed underscore freeze, and that's why I could not find the location of the file. Now this is the file. So we are doing vroom colon vroom. It's that function to read to read in the CSV files. And I'm gonna do control return. And we see here it's reading in, but it's giving us some information about this here. And it is telling us to use, like it's saying that use the spec function, excuse me, to retrieve full column specifications for this data. We don't want this information. So what we can do is suppress it by saying or calling the option show underscore call underscore types equal false. I'm not going to copy it. I'm just going to come here and type it, start typing, and then I will see the suggestion. So let me show called, and then we have it. And now we say, let me show you something. So now I'm just like, I started typing false, but lowercase is in R is capitalized. If Python is just, no, R is all uppercases. Python is going to be capital F and then all the other lower cases. And because of the auto completion, I get it here. I always like to arrange my code so that I can see it clearly. But because I'm using this 13-inch screen, it's kind of a smudge in between, but I hope you can see it clearly. Now, when we do ship return, I think that's the control return. Now we don't see that message again. And this is what we want to see. Let's now clean. Let's go and see in the environment. Let's see the data. And this is our data. Our data has 453 entries and 10 columns. It's not all the columns that we are interested in. We are interested in the region name, which are the state names, and we are interested in all the variable name and so on. So I will do this when I will pipe this into glimpse function. And a glimpse function is going to give us a printout of the columns and the description. So region is just a character. We don't need that. And the region name is character also, which are the state names. A variable name is the rows for population totals, and then gender, male and female. Age, and then age name is what we need. It has also the age categories, also including the total rows. All the other columns are not important. The other column that is important is the 2008, which is the population column. So we are going to extract those columns. I've been working with this data for a while, or a long time, so I know it by heart. So what we will do, another thing that I would like us to see is if we scroll all the way to the bottom, or that's not the best way to do it. So let me pipe this into, there are two functions. I could call hit here to look at the top 5 rows or 6, but I like using the dplyr functions. So slice underscore hit, sorry. But if I call it like this and come here, it's just going to show me one. By default, it's going to show me one row. So what we need to do here is tell it what we want to see. So let's say 5. Okay, it is now reminding me or giving me an error saying n must be explicitly named. Did you mean slice underscore hit n equal 5? Yes, that's what I meant. Thank you for the reminder. So we will say this, and now we will have the 5 first rows, and we don't see anything there that is of a concern. So the one we need to do is we could have called the tail, but now we're going to use the dplyr slice underscore tail. We will look at the 5 last rows, and here, as we can see here, so let me so here we can see that there are the 3 last rows are NAs, and one is just NA, the other one is the source information where we obtain the data, and the URL. So those last rows are not important to us. We can remove them. So, but the first thing I will do is to select the columns of interest, the columns that we are interested in, that we would like to keep. So again, I can come down here. Let me Control L. Say glimpse again, call glimpse on this data set. And we need region name. I don't want this tutorial to be about data wrangling, but it is turning out to be, which is not bad. But to save time, I'm just going to focus on the topic using the case underscore went. But here we are interested in only 4 columns. What we could do that select function allowed or verb allows us to do is we can rename these functions. So no, not function, columns. So the way we name them, so the first column we can rename it as state. And so there's a comment here. Hi, Monitor. Yeah, Monitor. Thank you for joining us. And then this, I will name it as gender, because when we do the cleanup, we will only extract the rows corresponding to male and female. This, I will call it age category. So unlike Python, for R, you put in the new column before the old column. In Python, the reverse is true. So we are able to rename our columns within the select verb or function. Now we will run this. We look at our data again and we see only 4 columns. So there are 2 ways I'm going to show the case underscore went. When South Sudan was part of Sudan, there were all these states were only 3 regions. Now they are now called Greater, or they were called Greater Bahr el Ghazal, Upper Nile, which is now Greater Upper Nile, and then Equatoria, which is now Greater Equatoria. So one example or one way to showcase case underscore one is to say, okay, let's look at within the state column and see which I'm talking about hospitals because I work in healthcare, which states belongs to Greater Upper Nile, Bahr el Ghazal, Equatoria, etc. We can also, like if we work with this data daily or often, we could write a function assuming we get the data from different sources and match it. Then we could write a function whereby we look in the state column and detect. If we see Upper Nile, then we can assign it to Great Upper Nile. Or if we see Upper Nile, we know that it is the Upper Nile state. So that is one example uh, where we can use the case underscore when. Another example is the age categories. We see age categories, there are a lot of them. We could categorize this by reducing the number of categories, maybe to 4 or 5. So instead of wasting time doing other things, what I'm going to do is showcase case underscore when function. This is the topic of our today's tutorial. So we are going to use this function within the mutate function. But before we go there, let me go to the website and show you. So I'll come up here. I'll type in case, or I should have said dplyr case underscore when. I'm going to increase the font size. I think that's better. And so this is the website here, and it says general vectorize if else. And this is telling us this function allows you to vectorize multiple if else or if underscore else statements. So you could use if underscore else, but when you do that, it's going to nest a lot of them within, which is hard to read and can be confusing. So that is why the case underscore when is really handy. So case underscore when was inspired by SQL case underscore when statement. And this is the new change. Before, there was no default value or option. Here we have dot default, which is set to null. But before, after looping through all the options, you just say true, and then the tilde, and then put the options. That is no longer the case. So these are the options. We have the dot dot dot, which is according to the documents here, is going to be used for future options or upgrades or updates. And then the default, which you can now set to anything. Before it was picky, you could not, like, if you were using different one data type, then you could not mix it with another data type. Like if you were dealing with strings characters, then you could not mix it with numeric or logical or things like that. There's also these under dot p type, which is set to null, and dot size, which are set to null. These are not important. You may use them depending on what you are trying to do, but this is what they are. This is an optional prototype declaring the desired output type. So the only thing that I'm going to use is going to be the dot default option. This is example being used here, but this is enough for what we are doing, just showing you that you can read the documentation online here. So we are going back to our example. And so first, let's say we would like to create the former regions of South Sudan. So we can say call this former region is equal, and then now we call our function case underscore when. And here we are looking at the state. And so let me look at this column. So I could use the $sign to pull out this one column. And I'm calling the unique values on it to see. And now this is what I was saying. So the last 3 rows are showing up here. And so one way to do this is to delete NAs. We could use drop NAs, but what I will do, I'll use a filter function, and I will say gender, okay, is dot NA gender column. And the reason I'm doing this is because the 3 last rows in this column are NAs. So if I run this, we will see that it will only pull out these rows. We don't need them. So we need to negate this here. So we will put the exclamation point that will negate it. And then when we pull it, we now have the null, like we have dropped all those 3 null values or NAs, and now we are good to go. We pipe this into our mutate function. And then now I can pull out the state or state names again. I'm going to pipe it into the unique function. And these are the states. There are 10 of them. So the first 3 are from Greater Upper Nile. The next ones are 4 are from Greater Bahr el Ghazal, and then the last 3 are from Greater Equatoria. So another thing I could do, since there is Equatoria is common in the 3, I could pull out Equatoria. So there are many ways you can use case 1. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the str detect from string R and the column and the string that we are trying to detect. So I'm going to say, and actually what I will do before this is I need to convert this to lower cases. So we are going to detect wherever there are all rows containing Equatoria, we will label them as Greater Equatoria. So we could have said if state is exactly Eastern Equatoria, if it is exactly Central Equatoria, but that is going to be like 3 rows instead of just using detect underscore or str underscore detect and then detect Equatoria. And so let's go back up here and say state equal state. We'll pipe it into str to lower. We're going to make them all lower cases. And then now this has to be lowercase. So when we detect this, we are going, so the way you assign it, you use the tilde to assign the value. So I'm going to go down and I will just copy Equatoria. And I'll say greater Equatoria. Now let's go and see the 3. So for Upper Nile, Nile is not common. Bahr el Ghazal is not in Warab and it's not in lakes. So we cannot use the detect. So what I will do, since there are only 3 options for Upper Nile, I'm just gonna label those, and instead of detecting, I'm just gonna say where state is exactly equal to Upper Nile. We are going to say Greater Upper Nile. The state is exactly unity. We are going to say that will also be Greater Upper Nile. And then finally, state is exactly, sorry, Jonglei. This is also going to be Greater Upper Nile. I always like to line them up so that I can clearly see what I'm doing. So this has taken care of the two regions. We are left with the Baragaldal region, to which we can, previously we would say true, and then we say this is greater bar L salt. I hope I'm spelling it correctly. And we could do this one and go back. We will see that we have added this column here. But that's not what we do. It's no longer like that. So now you type default is equal, and it doesn't use the tilde, it's used the equal sign. And now we have, and we can check, you can quickly check this, can quickly check the new column by calling our data set, pull out the last column. So I'm using that up arrow and call the unique function on it. And it is only showing two, it doesn't show, it is showing Greater Bargaldal and Greater Equatorial, but it's not showing Upper Nile. So why is it not showing Upper Nile? Okay. So maybe it is the way I'm doing it. So let's do this. Let's say we use the detect, and we want to detect these states. Okay, now let's try that. And so I see Equatoria. Okay. Okay, so this is not picking up the Upper Nile. So let's see what is the problem. Oh. Okay, let me see. Case one. Oh, okay. So I like this problem or the issue. The issue is I have converted the state names to lower cases. But here I'm still calling Upper Nile using capitalized. So this is why it's not detecting them. And so we need to change these to lower cases. Now we run this and we call our data set, pull out the last column, pipe it into unique. Now we have the three regions. So this is a good learning example on how to debug, to look at your code and see why it is not working. It just took me maybe a couple of minutes to figure out that the reason why it didn't pick up Greater Upper Nile was because I forgot I was putting this name in capitalized the way they came in originally, but the first function here has altered that. So then they detect str underscore detect function did not detect them. So this is one example. Okay, so what is that? This is one way to use the case underscore went, and this is the new way of using it. Like I mentioned earlier, the other options, you could use them, but you will rarely use them. These dot p type and dot size. I've never used these, but you can use them if need be, or if there is a reason for you to use those. So I'm not going to show those. So basically, this is the main topic of our tutorial today. I will do one more example, but this here is why what we wanted to share with you all. Also, if you have questions, you can drop them in the comment section. I will be able to see them and answer them. So I mentioned earlier that I wanted to show the separate function, which has now been superseded by its variants. But that will be the next tutorial. So the weekend after, not this coming weekend. So we will do every other weekend. So every other Sunday is when we will talk. The Sunday after this coming Sunday is when we will talk about the separate variants to work on this column gender, because we will remove this part population. We will only keep the middle part and the separate variants. Variants that are three of them, but one is the one that I use a lot, and we will talk about that next time. Let's look at underscore age underscore category. Instead of going from 0 to 4, I would like us to go from 0 to 14, and then from 15 to 24, from 25 to 34, etc. Now, in statistics, creating categories, there is a formula that is used, but the rule of thumb is you don't want too fewer categories, and you don't want too many categories. Too fewer categories will have your data squeezed together. Too many categories will have your data stretched out, because when you create categories and you plot, for example, the histogram, then the information might be lost when you have too fewer categories or too many categories. So there is that fine line where you have to walk to find the appropriate number of categories. For us, because this is for demonstration purposes, we will just pick 5 at most categories. So let's first examine the column 8 categories, and we will pipe it into, oops, sorry, that's not what I meant to press. So pipe it into unique. And these are the categories we have. Actually, we have 13, 14, 15 categories. This is too much. So I mentioned earlier that we are going to go. So the next thing, another thing we need to do, we need to get rid of the total columns, because we can calculate these values from the original data. So let's go back to our filter function. And we will add age underscore category. We will use the exclamation point and equal sign to say it's not equaled total. We don't want that to be equal the total rows. We want to exclude them. And then Now we will come here. Instead of using the same mutate function, which is okay, I'm gonna add another mutate function to that for readability. But you can chain them in one mutate function. So it's the H category is gonna be equal case underscore when H category. And here, because there are multiple values that we are going to group together, we are going to use is int, as is int is wrapped inside the percent sign or symbol. Oh, no, that's not what I want. I'm just gonna, for the sake of time, I will copy all these three, making sure I will intentionally make a mistake so that we can debug it. But it is important when you copy, you have to be careful. So I have separated those by column, and what we are going to do by comma, what we are going to do is relabel this as 0 to 14. So we are just going to use the dash or hyphen. And then we can copy this here just so that we don't have to keep typing. Then we paste it here is int. And we are going from 15 to 24. (15 to 24), and we are going to call this here. We are going to call it 15 for 15 to 24. And then make sure you add a comma. You go to the next line, H underscore category in, and then we are going from 25 to 34. Remember, I said that I'm going to intentionally make a mistake so that we can try to figure out where it is the error is originating from. 25 to 34. H category, and we are going from 35 to 44. This is probably going to give us more than 5 categories. We are going to call this here 35 to 44. H underscore, and we are getting auto completion, which is helping us. Don't have to type everything out. 45 to 54. (45 to 54). H category. Oh, oops. We are going from 55 to 64. Yeah, I like this. I like the way they came out. And then let's say, remember I said we are going to intentionally make a mistake so that we will try to figure out where it is originating from, the error is originating from. Debugging your code is the most challenging part. That is also can be frustrating. Okay, so the last category is those 65 and above. So instead of doing this, I'm just gonna, I will say that default, we will just call it 65 and above. We can leave it like that, or we can rename it. So now I have made intentionally two mistakes, and I'm going to run this code and we will get an error. So we got an error, our job is to try to understand what the error message is saying, and try to locate it in our code so that we can fix it. So the error says unexpected string constant int, and then it is showing us this line here, and then it is showing us this. So when we see here, I can see that we are saying category, age underscore category in, and then this vector function. We have 55 to 59, but we left out a comma here. You are welcome, Malia. Thank you for your support. So I intentionally left out the comma here. There is one more mistake, but let's run it again. And then it is saying again, there's another one, unexpected symbol in, and then it is saying, it is showing out the second to the last line, and then the default. And when you see there are commas at the end, but there's a comma is missing here. So we add that comma and we run it, and our code runs successfully. Those were two intentional mistakes that are left out there, because debugging your code is an important part of your programming or data analysis. It's good for you to be able to figure out, to debug your code. That is, understand what the error message is saying, and use that to trace, to find where the error is originating from. Now, it could be challenging for beginners. Like if you are a beginner in R or Python for that matter, then debugging your code can be challenging because it's hard to understand what the error message is saying. But it is important or imperative for you to teach yourself. First, you have to be patient, read the error message, try to understand it. If you don't understand it, your first place to go is you Google it. Now there is ChatGPT, there is Copilot. I have never tried Copilot, but I have used ChatGPT before. Then Stack Overflow used to be the first place to go to before ChatGPT and Copilot, but now you have those tools at your disposal to help you debug or answer your questions. So this is how you use case underscore went. And now we see here, we have implemented or converted that column. Now we can call that column to see whether or how many categories we got. Did we actually capture everything, or did we make a mistake? And we see there are 7. We have cut them down from 15 categories to 7 categories. These are still too many, but we will just leave it there. So I didn't see any questions, but this is what we wanted to share with you. Please remember to follow us on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Like and share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nile Quantum Insights, and also Jonglei Institute of Technology. Like I said, we alternate every other weekend. So this weekend was for data science. We talked about case underscore went from dplyr, just the new updates. We use dot default equal some value. We could just give it the null like this. Before it was picky, you had to use the null base because there is null for logical, also for integer, for character. So like if you do this, then like we would do this like if that was the case, but that's not the case anymore. Now you can just say NA and that will work. So next Sunday, we'll show you, this is going to be general topic for our community, the Nile Quantum Insight community. Last week, we showed how to use StreamYard to stream to different platforms. So next Sunday, we will show you how to create YouTube banner and Facebook cover image or photo using Canva. Canva as a free version and also paid version. You don't need to pay anything. You have a lot of tools that you can use to create your banners and cover images or photos free of charge. So that is what we will talk about on Sunday this coming week. But thank you all for your time. We will talk to you next time. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Take care. Bye.